Hi, my name is Joshua Mackey with Into, like get into it because you should. Diablo Cody, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Hopefully, as fabulous as your new film, Lisa Frankenstein, is
Thank
too. Saw
you.
it, really enjoyed it, really digging the 80s vibe. I have to ask, what were some of the major inspirations for this coming of rage love story?
Well, I grew up in the 80s. So for me, those 80s genre movies are a total cultural touchstone. Probably the most direct inspiration would be Weird Science, which is a movie that came out when I was a kid, and it's about these two nerds that create the perfect woman. And I think even as a young girl, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what the story would look like from the perspective of a woman. So that planted the seed, and that was one of the big inspirations.
I love it. I'm here for it. And honestly, there's so many extra components to it as well, from the literature aspect of it all. Obviously, this is like, dark like black comedy and love story all intertwined into just one confectionery concoction called Lisa Frankenstein. And so recognizing that you've got a lot within your own career as a creative, there's probably some different things from different movies and things you've worked on that may have ended up here. So what were some perhaps themes or inspirations from previous works that may have ended up in Lisa Frankenstein?
Well, I love to think that Lisa Frankenstein is in some way a descendant of Jennifer's Body, which I wrote a long time ago, but a lot of those sort of feelings and that aesthetic are still really meaningful to me. So definitely Jennifer's Body for sure. I think there's maybe a little bit of Juno in there. I think there's a kind of a connective tissue between all the female protagonists that I've written. There's kind of themes that keep coming up for me. Transformation is a big one. How much change can we go through in life and still be ourselves? So yeah.
So I saw the Juno and Jennifer's Bodies themes. I just wanted to see if you would say that. So I'm glad you
Here I am.
did.
You're right.
So especially a big fan of Jennifer's Body. And so here at Into, we are an LGBTQ plus focused publication. So we're all into checking for queer themes, hence Juno, and also, of course, Jennifer's Body. So granted, even though this film necessarily isn't necessarily a queer film, there's always queer subtext to everything. So I wanted to see what are some queer themes that you think that LGBTQ plus folks may pick up on when watching Lisa Frankenstein?
Well, the object of Lisa's affection is literally in a closet for a lot of the film. And I grew up not just in the 80s, but Catholic in the 80s at a time when people around me were encouraged to repress any queer feelings that they had. And this relationship in this movie is hidden. So I think you can read some subtext into that. And, even though it is somewhat of a heterosexual love story, I guess. It also is. They're definitely an offbeat pair, and they're just I don't know how to put this. It's not a relationship that would be fully accepted by society in any era. So I think that's relatable.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. You got me as soon as you said, "Oh, look, the love interest is hidden in the closet." I was like, "Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
why did I not catch that?" So yeah, it's right there. The writing's on the wall, which is in the closet.
yeah.
Also, on the topic of this era, since it is based in the 80s, granted, there are things that are happening within this decade that also transcend through other generations and other decades. Were there any other themes or parts that you feel like are going to be timeless additions to this film?
I think obviously love is timeless. The way that we process grief is timeless. I think setting it in the 80s was interesting in terms of the discussion around mental health, because at the time it wasn't really there. And there was a lot of stigma around depression and mental illness in general. And now I think we're having these more open conversations about those things. So, yeah, like I'm glad that we can have a movie like this that is about being vulnerable and is about expressing emotions.
I love it. And there are a wide array of emotions we're going to be able to see in Lisa Frankenstein. I think what I also appreciate are just some of the stellar performances, of course, from the main cast. And then I have a special place in my heart for Carla, watching all the things that she's been in too. I have to say, what are some favorite components of this film, or what was your favorite part of being a part of this film, writing it and producing it all?
Well, I made sure as a producer that I was on set the days that Carla came to film her scenes because I am such a huge fan of hers, and I wanted to make sure that I was there and I could like fangirl over her and watch her do her thing. And she embodied the character of Janet, I feel, so perfectly in this movie. I mean, she's just so hilarious and so vile in the best way. Yeah, it's like I just, for me, like as the writer, but also as a producer, like I just wanted to make sure that this movie captured that feeling of like 80s paranormal rom-com nostalgia. Like those movies had a very specific feel to them. And I grew up just loving that genre. And so to be able to add to it it's very exciting.
Well, I have to ask my final question. What do you hope viewers ultimately take away from watching Lisa Frankenstein?
I hope people feel seen because what's so fun about creating a fantasy story that's also relatable is, I think when you go into a movie about a guy who gets reanimated by a tanning bed, you're not expecting to have kind of a personal connection to it. You're probably expecting just to be entertained and to laugh. But I think there's a deeper core to this movie, and I hope that people, come away also having the feels.
Well, I definitely left with plenty of feels. More to think about now that you just blew my mind with these other components, especially the queer themes within there.
Oh yeah, get in there.
Gotta get in there. And fan of your work, Diablo Cody. Thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it. Adding in Lisa Frankenstein to my running list of dark horror comedies over here. And I hope, that our readers are really enjoy this interview just as much as I have. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the press interviews, okay?
Thank you. It was really nice meeting you. I appreciate it.
Likewise. See ya.